Welcome to the No Sour Ha Ha Fun Time Power Hour.
You need some whoop 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 boing. You know?
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to the No Sour Ha Ha Fun Time Power Hour on this sunny, now 66 degree,
Perfect.
beautiful afternoon, Thursday. It is almost the weekend, and we could not be happier about that. And we could not be happier about our next guest who is here to get us up to speed on some of our favorite sports teams. Paul Noonan is back. And if you are not familiar with Paul, he is a writer for Shepherd Express and Acme Packing Company, where he covers the Packers. And he's also the host of the weekly podcast, One Reporting as Eligible, which is on the Packers, and Milwaukee's Tailgate podcast, which is on the Brewers. Welcome back, Paul.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. So let's start, because we didn't really touch, besides my comment on the attire of Lucas Van Ness and what his big silver chain of what he was wearing the night that he got drafted. We have not touched the draft very much. So I guess you obviously write about this. So I think you have lots of thoughts on the draft. So I would say let's start there. What grade would you give the Packers with this year's draft?
So certainly an elite fashion draft for sure. People really showed up for this one, but for the Packers, I'm like A minus on them for this draft. I think they had a phenomenal draft, and I would quibble with a couple of individual selections, but their methodology was far better than it's been in the recent past. They stuck to positions of high value. They pulled off a few trade backs, which is almost always a good idea, especially in this draft, and really set themselves up well for what I think will be a pretty small rebuild, especially if Jordan Love's any good. And they've had a really good month between trading Aaron Rodgers and doing a very friendly restructure with Jordan Love after the draft. I think they knocked it out of the park on the draft. I wouldn't have changed very much at all.
Would you have changed the first pick?
I would not.
Wow.
I like Lucas Van Ness. I think that's a good, solid pick. Edge rushers are always good value in the first round. They're one of the most valuable positions in football, and the Packers do have some good ones already. Like Preston Smith is still here, and Rashawn Gary, if he comes back from injury, is outstanding. But this is a position where you kind of can't have too many of them. And, Rashawn Gary blowing out his ACL last year is a good reason why. Lucas Van Ness is an incredible athlete. Usually you don't get guys this big at this position. He's a 270-pounder who runs like a wide receiver. He's
massive. This guy's neck is maybe wider than his head.
Yeah. When I was watching tape on him, the first thing that I thought of was actually Kabir Bajabila, because that guy had the longest arms I've ever seen. It's just that Lucas Van Ness is like 5 inches taller and like 50 pounds heavier, but moves like him and also has just gigantic long arms, just good for reaching around defensive or offensive linemen and bringing down quarterbacks. So
bringing down quarterbacks are potentially
very, very good. Like that pick.
Balls out of the air.
Yep.
Any insight on the tight ends that we got? Because I know that was a position that a lot of people were hoping that we would get some good tight ends.
Yeah, this is one where I probably would have done things a little differently than they did, but I won't quibble too much. My favorite tight end in this draft was Darnell Washington, who ended up in Pittsburgh, because he is also sort of a physical specimen of a person, like a Shaquille O'Neal kind. But these are good picks. Luke Musgrave is my second favorite after Washington, and essentially just a really tall, really fast wide receiver. He's not going to be much as a blocker, and he did have some injury problems in college. He actually missed most of his last year with some injuries, but he looks healthy now, and he's a field stretcher. The Packers haven't really had a guy like this since maybe Jared Cook when they had him for a season, but really since Jermichael Finley. And Musgrave is quite a bit faster and larger than Jermichael Finley is. The Packers are supposed to be running the Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan offense. That needs good tight ends. They haven't had those positions since he's been here, and so they haven't run the true version of his offense since he's been here. And I like Musgrave a lot. He's a good athlete. He's a little raw, but I like Kraft more.
Okay.
Kraft played at a tiny school. He played in South Dakota State at the lower division, and he is every bit as good of an athlete as Musgrave, but he's a tank with the ball. He's the kind of guy that you can throw the ball to, and he'll just knock off a few defenders and pick up an extra 5 yards. He's also a good blocker. He can play in line. He can actually play all three tight end positions. Very versatile, and the two of them can be on the field together because they play slightly different tight end positions. You can do a lot of fun stuff versatility wise with them. So I love the two together as a pair, and they did, I think, a great job going for high upside on both of them.
All right. We're talking to Paul Noonan for our weekly sports check-in on, I guess this week we're doing Packers and Brewers. But quickly, before we move on to the Brewers, can you explain to those of us who are not fluent in contract talk what we should take away from the restructuring of Jordan Love's deal?
That is no problem. So Jordan Love, by virtue of being a first-round pick, the Packers had an option for what's called the fifth-year option. Any first-round pick you make, you can basically pay them a certain amount of like the top 5 people at the position average for 1 year to keep them for an extra year, and that's a lot of money. And most of the time, that's going to get picked up for quarterbacks, but Jordan hasn't played that much, and so this was sort of a good split the baby kind of deal because what this deal did was it got Jordan Love money up front. So he's been making rookie minimum salary for the duration of his contract. Well, he's been very patiently waiting, and by all accounts, he's a good teammate. So this deal is essentially, hey, Jordan, you've been a good sport here. We're not sure on the option yet because we haven't seen you, but here's life-changing money up front. And if you are still here next year, he gets still a good amount next year too. But if he's good, they'll rip this up and they'll pay him like a real quarterback. So it really, from Jordan Love's perspective, it puts him in a position where he gets a lot of money up front. And if he's bad, he's still rich. And if he's good, it doesn't really matter because he'll be much, much richer. And from the Packers' perspective, it keeps him in good salary cap shape and lets them mitigate the risk a little bit if he's not good.
So far, you're feeling like we're in a good position going into our first year post Aaron Rodgers.
Yes. There's holes on the team. It's not perfect, but they've done, I think, a really nice job so far with every post Rodgers move they've made,
which is great.
Yeah,
we love that.
I just want to put, if I'm bad, I'm still rich on a pillow. It's not true in my case, but I just think that's great.
Other fun underrated part of the draft is they did draft a guy named Kraft and a guy named Colby back to back. So
nice.
A good
nice
draft.
That was I'm sure someone on Twitter picked that up, but I did not. I unfortunately was not the one to pick that up, but that is some good cheese, good cheese news. So then I love that you cover the two teams and two sports that you cover the most. One has the least amount of games per year, and one has the most amount of games per year. And so I already looked at the Brewers, which, I've already gone to 2 games this year, which is, I like it for how early. That's a lot for me.
Yeah.
But I would say to look at our standings, and we've already played like 30 games. And I was like, oh God, there's so many games in baseball.
It's a long season.
It's such a long season. So how do you even kind of sum up how we're doing so far?
The Brewers are tough because it's undoubtedly been a good start. They have a good record.
Yeah.
They're they're actually just a little bit out of first right now, but they've played really well. But I do think they're in rough shape at the moment. So
interesting.
Good start, but some cracks are starting to show a little bit. And the injury to Brandon Woodruff in particular is, I think, going to start to grate on that pitching staff a little bit because they do rely on him and Corbin Burns to sort of be the innings eaters, let the bullpen kind of reset and get healthy every turn through the rotation. And so that's starting to grate on them. And the other thing is they've suffered quite a few injuries on the offense, and that's starting to show too. They're relying so much on young players that they had to start the season. They still have Joey Wiemer in the lineup, and they still have Bryce Terang in the lineup. But Garrett Mitchell, who was kind of their best offensive player to start the season, he got hurt, and he's also a great outfielder to boot. And the thing with rookies is usually the league kind of figures them out after a little bit. Everybody comes up, scouting reports are read, and then pitchers actually get to reading them, and they figure out what their weaknesses are and pound them. For the first month of the season, Joey Wiemer didn't make contact with a curveball, and now all that's thrown to him are curveballs. So the young kids need to adjust back, and at the same time, both Garrett Mitchell and Sal Frelick, who's his sort of AAA backup, both are out. So the offense has been struggling for the last week or so, and that's probably going to continue for a while until they get healthy. So it's good they got off to a good start. Injuries happen, and they've weathered them before, but I think they're going to have a hard time putting runs on the board for a little while until they get some of those guys back.
How have you feel like as a baseball fan? How have you liked the faster game so far?
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge improvement. I've heard a few people say it's actually a little too quick if you're there, but I even disagree with that. Kids probably play a part of that. It's nice if you are not at a baseball stadium with children for 4 hours. It's nice if it's shorter than that. But it really has
valuable lesson there. Paul.
Indeed. It's cut out a lot of dead time, and that's what it was meant to do. Nobody wants to stand around watching a guy adjust his wrist guard for 45 seconds. And that's primarily what's happened change-wise, and I think it's much more exciting to have things keeping rolling all the time. So I'm hugely in favor of it. I think it's been great.
I would say the couple games I've gone to so far, I've like this. It's good. It moves along, which is nice. But I also don't want to speak because I know some baseball purists very offended.
I tend to be one of the purists, but they have needed to change things for a while. They still have a problem with too many strikeouts versus hits, which hopefully they'll get to. But this is I think clearly a win for them. They've done a nice job.
And as you said, Paul, it was the tweaking and the twitching and the gloves, and now I got to fix this, and now I have to and for heaven's sakes, just swing at the ball.
So then, final question before we let you go. But I love that you found this on eBay. Have you made a bid on the 1993 original first generation Milwaukee County Stadium sausage racer costumes?
Oh man. I did not make a bid. I don't have enough room for what I have in my house already. And I don't think my wife would be happy if she came home to those 3 suits. But
those 3 suits, and also that you spent $25,000.
Also that. But they're really cool, and I do hope that somebody buys them who can preserve them properly. They're made out of sort of an old-timey foam that's not going to survive use or normal storage. So I hope like a museum gets a hold of them or something like that. One of the breweries maybe who they buy the brewer stuff once in a while.
Oh, but it's a certain one.
Yeah.
There's a certain one who might be able to spring on that kind of.
It's so cool that they're out there, and I have like a few eBay alerts set up just for wacky sports stuff, and I'm glad that one popped up.
All right. Well, Paul, we always love having you here. We'll have you back in 2 weeks. Hopefully, we'll have some good Brewers news, some Packers news, see what else is going on, maybe a Badger football preview. But thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk to you soon. All right. Stay tuned. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Your squad, future physical fitness, sports go sports. Athletics are number 1. Participants are heroes. Go team, yeah. Sports go sports.
Feeling down, anxious, depressed? You are not alone. According to the World Health Organization, approximately 280 million people have depression, but the majority never receive treatment. At WellPoint Care Network, they can help. Their outpatient clinic staff are both qualified and caring, not to mention highly trained in partnering with you on your healing journey. Make an appointment today at wellpointcare.org. They serve all ages, infants, children, and adults. Both in-person and virtual services are available. Learn more at wellpointcare.org.
Images are everywhere, on iPads, cell phones, or the cloud. In fact, everywhere but where you can find them. Mike Crivello Camera and Imaging Center has the solution to this problem. They're called pictures, and we print them right from our website. And you order them online at MikeCrivellos.com. And they look magnificent in your photo album.
Mike Crivello's world is a wonderful world of camera.
It's not a picture till it's printed. 181st and Blue Mound.
Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at civicmedia.us or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.
Weather brought to you by FreshFin, bringing you a fresh and healthy fast casual experience. Seafood, chicken, pork, or tofu. The bowl options at FreshFin are endless. Check them out at the corners of Brookfield, Bayshore Mall, East Side, and 3rd Ward, or online at freshfin.com.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Highs level off around 69 this afternoon under mainly clear skies. South winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Slight chance for scattered rain showers tonight. Lows level off around 49. Cloudy skies expected. Slight chance for scattered rain showers again tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 70. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 64 degrees.
The Shaw 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM, Wisconsin's home for rational talk radio.
Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. How you doing?
Good. And we didn't have time with Paul, and we'll have to do this the next time he comes around. But I did hear that former number 12, Aaron Rodgers, has actually been at camp with the Jets.
I also wanted to ask Paul, maybe we'll ask him this next time because he will be back every 2 weeks. If he has any, now that he's gone, any more satire parody songs that
one can hope
that he is working on as a goodbye.
But I heard him. I can't remember what outlet it was, but I need to get the rhythm with the new guys and leadership and establish. It's like, oh, you big poop! I'm so glad you're gone.
Not only that, but he also showed up looking normal.
Oh, he didn't look like he was homeless?
He didn't come in a costume or an homage to Nicolas Cage or in a wife beater with long hair. He just came in like Jets merch and like a tight haircut, and he looked handsome.
And he is handsome.
Who
He has
knows?
dreamy eyes.
Maybe he just was cooped up in Green Bay.
Good. Go fly free.
But I want to be careful at how much energy we give him now that he's gone.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's going to be, because we still even give Brett Favre a lot of energy years later.
When he shows up in the news like that,
I know.
sometimes you have to send a little energy his way.
That's true, but I'm just saying, as far as how much, what is actually newsworthy, and I would say some of the things Brett Favre has done is newsworthy, but some of the stuff Aaron Rodgers, it's like he's just doing his job.
I know he's done. Let's show some love to Jordan Love.
Well, it is Star Wars Day. Are you a Star Wars fan, Jane?
I am.
Okay, good. I didn't know if you were one of the.
I loved Star Trek.
Oh,
the TV series, the original TV series.
Yeah,
I loved that show.
All right. So, we're in our family, not so much my dad, but everyone else in the family, big Star Wars people. So it's a fun, silly day to enjoy Star Wars. So in the next segment, we're going to be taking your calls, stories, memories of, what's your favorite Star Wars memory, whether it's the first time you saw it, whether it's the familial connection you have with it because people, your brother, mother, uncle really love Star Wars and they got you into it. What was your favorite Star Wars movie? I guess like of the entire franchise, because now you have so many different movies. You have so many different shows. There is such a huge universe of Star Wars now. Or if, you're not a Star Wars person, does it annoy the crap out of you that there's so many Star Wars people? That's fair too. 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. What is your connection or lack thereof to Star Wars on this Star Wars Day? May the 4th be with you. But before we get to that, when you and Paul go on vacation, do you guys do hotels or have you ventured into doing Airbnbs?
We have yet to do an Airbnb.
You've never done an Airbnb.
We haven't, but we haven't been away since 2019. So this year, we're going to go away.
This year you're going on a big vacation.
Yeah, we're going overseas,
which will be very fun. But it's interesting because Airbnb, it was at first like this great option, right? Like it was so much cheaper, and it was also like friendly. It was almost kind of when Lyft first started versus Uber, because Uber at first was black cars, right, and with like professional drivers,
right,
and then Lyft, before Uber stole the idea, had people who just had a car, and so they offered to drive and they got paid to do it. And Airbnb at first was just so like friendly, and the people who offered to have like if they had an extra space or whatever. And now it's turned into a business for so many people. And so people own properties where they don't actually live.
They
and they
have them
hire
specifically for
and
this.
they hire a property manager. I saw a great video about this when they were playing. They're like, Airbnb in 2014. It's like, oh, you're like pillows not fluffed enough. Like, let me come. I'll run downstairs and fix that for you. And every day they left little treats and notes and stuff. And now the joke is you try to get a hold. This happened to us on our honeymoon. You try to get a hold of your Airbnb host, and they're like, which property are you at?
Uh-oh.
Are you in Florida? Are you in Puerto Rico? Because they own them all over the place.
And no one is actually on location.
And they're like, no one's on. Well, they have a property manager who's managing multiple different properties. They're like, well, this happened to us. I mean, literally, this happened to us on our honeymoon because we had no hot water. And it took 3 days.
Oh, my goodness.
And they were like, well, as soon as I can get someone out there is blah, blah, blah. So it turns out that Airbnb has heard your complaints and is finally making it easier to share your bathroom with someone you don't know. So they're basically trying to bring back what the original thing was. So the short-term rental company rolled out a whole suite of upgrades yesterday, the biggest being a new feature to facilitate renting cheaper single rooms in shared homes. So you could always do this, but Airbnb Rooms, which is the new feature, lets users sort single room listings more easily, includes more facts about the hosts you'll be sharing a toaster with, and provides privacy info, like whether or not there's locked doors and stuff like that. But it also lists the whole price, because Airbnb has kind of become how airlines are, or Ticketmaster is.
Here's a
where
surprise fee.
Yeah, where you organize by what the nightly rate is, but then by the time the cleaning fee and the booking fee and blah blah blah, and it's why am I not just staying at a hotel?
Yeah.
So Airbnb, listening, responding, evolving. So don't sleep on it if you're still looking for hostel type prices instead of the hotel. But if you still want someone to necessarily clean up after you, get the hotel.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, your connection to Star Wars. Is it a good one? Is it a non-existent one? We want to hear from you. May the 4th be with you. It's 844-967-2789. Taking your Star Wars stories when we come back. This is Ask Go.
For rural Wisconsin. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
CBS News Brief.
Darling, I will be loving
British singer Ed Sheeran is off the hook. A jury just found his hit song Thinking Out Loud did not copy Marvin Gaye's classic Let's Get It On. The family of Gaye's co-writer had sued him for copyright infringement. In Washington, a partial verdict for some Proud Boys involved in the insurrection.
Now they have convicted both the leaders of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys for what happened on January 6th. And they've done so on the most serious of charges, seditious conspiracy.
That's legal analyst Lori Levinson. A jury is still deliberating charges against a 5th member. And we're learning more about the shooter who killed a CDC worker and injured 4 others in Atlanta. CBS's Jeff Pegues.
Though police would not comment on the suspect's potential motive, a law enforcement source told us that his mother, who accompanied her son to the appointment, said that he was on medication for mental health issues.
CBS News Brief. I'm Monica Ricks.
The Shaw 101 FM. Franklin's choice for News Talk Radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
For Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what you need to know. They're getting closer to reopening the Great River Road in western Wisconsin, where a train went off the tracks last week near DeSoto. Crews are done processing about 2.5 million pounds of debris from the crash. President Biden and U.S. House Republicans are in a standoff over raising the national debt ceiling. Wisconsin Congressman Mark Pocan says holdouts are pushing the world economy to the brink of disaster if the U.S. can't pay its bills.
We've always lifted the debt ceiling because it's the responsible thing to do. President Reagan said that. Donald Trump said that. We lifted it 3 times for Donald Trump during his administration.
President Biden says he's open to compromise on taxes and spending, but not on raising the debt ceiling. In sports, the Rockies clobbered the Brewers last night 7-1. Milwaukee tries to avoid a sweep today. I'm Terry Bell, and this is Civic Media News.
Real Chili's been serving up mouth-watering goodness to the people of Milwaukee since 1931. Their famous secret award-winning chili recipe is the same as it was back then and a local treasure. From lunch to dinner to late-night breakfast, Real Chili has you covered. And now you can bring the Real Chili to your next party, tailgate, wedding, or office gathering with their unbeatable catering options. And don't forget about their Real Love Party Packs, perfect for small groups, and pick up from their 2 convenient locations, downtown Milwaukee and near Marquette University campus. Visit them at realchili.com. That's realchili.com.
Zocalo Food Truck Park is so much fun. They have such variety in one place. You name it. Ice cream, bagels, sushi, tacos, pizza, to tasty sandwiches, and a fun full bar to boot with some craft cocktails and beers. You can even host a private party or reserve a heated hut. Support local food entrepreneurs with family and friends and Taste Milwaukee. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Find us at ZocaloMKE.com. That's ZocaloMKE.com. The 4 most dreaded words. My computer is down. Oh boy, that bites. Remain sane. PC and Bat Together will fix the pain. Rated #1 PC doctor in Southeast Wisconsin. Great service, great rates, and fast service with no trip charge. Experts with PCs, laptops, network servers, protection, backups, and can even help you remotely. Click PCandBat.com or call us at 262-706-3235. That's 262-706-3235. Remain sane. We fix the pain.
This is Pat Brightwell from Up North News Radio. On the air, online, or on demand, make it a point to catch the first word on Wisconsin news, sports, and more weekday mornings from 6 to 8 all across the stations of the Civic Media Radio Network.
Well, welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. May the 4th be with you. Dun, dun, dun. 844-967-2789. We want to finish out today's very fun show hearing your connection to stories about love of Star Wars and the entire universe, pun intended, it's been created into, especially since Disney Plus came online, and all of the really good shows. Like Andor was really good. The Mandalorian's back. I haven't watched this season of Mandalorian yet, so we need to catch up there. But
think of all the spin-offs. And now,
all the spin-offs.
As you said before, that the entire world that George Lucas created is remarkable.
And yes, it is. And so it's funny because I feel like a lot of people your age, or at least older than me, can remember the first time they saw any of the Star Wars. I feel like I was so young, like it was just always on in our family.
Sure.
Because we, as I've said before, my uncle Doug, who is my mom's youngest brother, has Down syndrome, and he moved in with us when I was 7 or 8. And guy loves Star Wars. Just loves it. Loves Darth Vader. And if you know anything about some of the tendency of a lot of Downs people, they like what they like.
And you're not going to just
and they watch it a lot.
Yep.
And so for him, it was Indiana Jones, it was Jaws, it's Shrek, but it is certainly always #1 in his heart is Star Wars. So I feel like one of especially the first 3, because I don't think episodes 1, 2, and 3, like the prequels, those came out when I was in high school, I want to say. And so all the original 3, one of those was just almost always on, I feel like, growing up. And so I don't have like a distinct memory of the first time I ever saw it. But I feel like between my mom, my uncle, me, my brother, like it is a movie that whenever it is on, you just sit down and you watch.
You got to have it on.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. I remember very specifically seeing in the paper that a high school classmate of mine was was the first one in line to see Star Wars when it came to Milwaukee.
Okay.
It was a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big thing.
Were people in costumes at that point, or was it too early for
Too
people
early.
to know what they would like have to wear?
No, too early. Nobody had a Chewbacca suit back then.
So did you see all three of the original in the theater then?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
But it was like nothing else. I mean, the special effects for the time had never been done before. At
Yeah.
least not that I remember. Going into hyperspace was just like, wow, man, that's so cool.
And it's funny because I wonder, like the lasting impact, because now, the special effects in so many movies
Are
just,
amazing.
or just you just think about it like this is just how a movie is. But I feel like it's the characters and it's storytelling, and it's also, I feel like the lore of it all is what keep people so attached to it, if that makes sense, or like the philosophy, if you will, about it. And so I would love to hear from people, because I think most people I know, like, I feel like you're more in the minority of people who just haven't seen it, or have only seen one. You're like,
That
that's
was
fine.
enough.
Like, there's a lot of people who really love it. So we'd love to hear from you. 844-967-2789. There's a great piece in Journal Sentinel today from Amy Schwabe, who's one of their journalists who covers a lot of like family focused stories. And she talks about how her family is a very Star Wars family, specifically because her husband is very into Star Wars.
Okay.
And then their daughters got very into Star Wars. And so now she is also very into Star Wars.
By default.
And she said, so you can imagine our delight when my older daughter started college this past fall, and one of her first classes was the philosophy of Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
And she says, she goes, one of the reasons why the class sounds so appealing is because, like, in their family, they do story analysis, and they do story analysis of Star Wars. And like she's like, many of our conversations revolve around Star Wars characters, motivations, story arcs, and yes, philosophy. And then she goes through, she makes a really good point as far as some of these quotable parts of any of the movies that are also just really good life lessons. And so she lists, obviously, Yoda, do or do not. There is no try. And obviously that is cautions to, you can't be fear of failure. You can't be afraid of failure, because if you just don't do things because you don't think you can, you're never going to achieve anything. And so that's a really good one. And then when Obi-Wan Kenobi tells Anakin, only a Sith deals in absolutes.
See, and when you get into the later ones, I hated every single one of those.
Is there anything like which ones have been made since the year 2000 that you like?
None. I only like
none of the TV shows, none of the movies.
No.
Wow.
But
Why?
again, I haven't seen Mandalorian,
Okay.
so I shouldn't judge that. But after the first 3 films, I mean, Natalie Portman was she was terrible.
And I don't, because she is a good actress.
She's a great actress. She was terrible in those movies.
And I don't know if this is just the writing, because Hayden Christensen he got cast as Anakin Skywalker for a reason. Like, he was a good actor, but like, he wasn't that good in those either.
Well,
like,
and you know what?
Ewan McGregor was okay in those.
He was okay. What I think those were missing, though, that the first 3 had, was a sense of humor. And the later ones and they were always dark, and, Darth Vader and all of that stuff. But there was a sweet comedy to the first 3 that I think just got left behind as they continued on and became so serious. And they tried to lighten it up with Jar Jar Binks, which was an enormous mistake. Terrible mistake. And so I think it lost that. And that's when they lost me.
But then they never got you back. Because I would say some people would argue that those first three, well, however you want to, so 1, 2, 3, knowing that the original 3 were 4, 5, 6. A lot of people, I don't think, like those.
It's so confusing.
But then the ones that came out there were supposed to be like 7, 8, 9. And I'm not a good enough Star Wars fan to know all of them by name and be able to say all of them right now. But the question being, as far as I felt like those were better than 1, 2, 3. But the ones that have come out basically when J.J. Abrams started directing them, I thought they were a lot better. But I'm guessing you maybe didn't give those ones a chance as far as like the J.J. Abrams ones.
Never saw them.
See, maybe this is your challenge.
I could.
This is like a spring cleaning. Maybe you like put it on the background in some of the newer stuff.
Give it a chance.
You give it another chance since those first 3 post the original 3 left such a bad. Maybe you just need to
fresh eyes.
Fresh eyes.
Fresh eyes. John from Stevens Point joining us at 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. Hey, John, thanks for joining us. What do you want to say?
I'm just calling to put to an end this farce called Star Wars.
Whoa!
I've always been a Star Trek fan, and there's been this rivalry between the two. It's just kind of fun, but you've got your Star Wars and your Star Trek, and I'm like Jane. I like Star Trek and always have. And I think what you were saying about humor in the first 3 movies is very true. And I'm going to admit I've only seen one Star Wars movie. The one I saw, I don't remember the name of it, but I remember Harrison Ford turning to Princess Leia and say, "Not bad for a little fuzzball," as this Wookiee thing or whatever drove off.
Oh, it was the
on
Wookiees. The Wookiees.
The Ewoks?
The Ewoks.
Yeah, Ewoks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would have been
the third one.
The third one, Return of the Jedi.
Was it?
Because there's A New Hope.
Yeah, that's it.
What do you call it? And then Return of the Jedi was the third one. Yeah, Empire Strikes Back, and yeah.
Yep. You should watch the first one, John. You should watch the first one.
A New Hope.
A New Hope. You should watch A New Hope. I think if you like the third one, you'll really like the first one, just to see the cantina scene. Again,
okay.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's one of those cultural touchstone moments that I think you'd really enjoy.
And I remember I was 13 when the original Star Wars came out, and I remember the promos on TV and everything, and I turned to my mom, "I gotta see that," but I never did.
Oh wow.
And growing up back in 1987, Buick came out with a car called the Grand National, and it was a high performance car, intercooled 6-cylinder engine. You could only get it in black. And their ad campaign in paper, I don't remember if it was ever on TV, but their magazine ad campaign was, "Darth Vader, your car is ready." And then they had a picture of the Buick Grand National. But yeah, I've always been a Star Trek fan. Give me Captain Kirk and going where no one has gone before. I don't know. Before hyperdrive, there was warp drive.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for calling, John. Live long and prosper.
Same to you. Live long and prosper as I raise my right hand.
So did Jane.
You can check it on the stream. Thanks a lot, John, for calling. 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY if you want to check in.
And I feel like that's a fair trade-off because I've never seen. I don't think I've watched a lot of Star Trek. And so I feel like I could, if we got you to watch some of the more recent Star Wars movies,
I'll do that.
You could send me, or you could tell me which Star Trek, either episodes, but there's also movies of that too that I should check out. Because I know enough people who are also into Star Trek for similar reasons, as far as like the storytelling and the metaphors and like the bigger issues they're tackling through the sci-fi lens of. This is a future world, but we're dealing with the same things that we're dealing with now, like racism. And
exactly. And Gene Roddenberry was way ahead of his time as far as having an interracial cast and relationships. And like you said, addressing some of those things that had never that had never been done in that way before. So it was really groundbreaking.
Yeah. Well, it was also the first interracial kiss.
Yeah, that's it was Uhura and
Captain Kirk. Yeah. Yeah. And obviously lived another day after the backlash of that.
And William Shatner's career, and he's still around.
He went to space.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, here's some fun Wisconsin trivia as far as our connection to Star Wars. Do you know this?
I'm not sure.
Do you know where I'm going to go with this?
I don't.
So Han Solo himself has some deep ties to Wisconsin.
Harrison Ford.
He's a Chicago native, but he enrolled at Ripon College in 1960. And he flunked out.
Oh, really?
He flunked out his senior year after losing interest in academics altogether.
Wow.
And at that point, he was making money by hustling pool.
Oh, wow.
Which is admittedly a very Han Solo thing to do.
And he was a carpenter.
He was a carpenter, but he took acting classes, I guess, on a whim and appeared in Thornton Wilder's The Skin of Our Teeth. Soon after, Ford took his first professional acting job, a summer stock gig in Williams Bay that saw him performing in a converted Mormon church with the Belfry Players. And the gig was so low paying that Ford had to help out with the carpentry, a skill that would incidentally lead to his casting as Han Solo.
That's how we met George Lucas.
Yep. As legend has it, Ford was building a door at Francis Ford Coppola's office when he ran into George Lucas, his American Graffiti director, a few years earlier, who now was casting a new science fiction film. And seeing as Ford was an actor, Lucas would frequently pull him away from his carpenter duties to sit in on auditions for the film, often reading the part of a galactic smuggler named Han Solo, and the rest is history. We'll be back in a minute. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Are you an experienced industrial painter, drywall finisher, or want to be? Do you want more than a job, but a high-paying career where your interests are well represented, ensuring a safe work environment? The International Union of Painters and Allied Trades of District Council 7 wants you. Bring your knowledge or ask about paid training. Learn more now. Call Tom Coyne, 262-488-4839, 262-488-4839, or go to the union's website, iupatdc7.com.
Enter a world of wizards, hobbits, and gnomes at the Gift Nook in Kewaskum. Explore an enchanted land with locally made, handcrafted gifts themed from nerdy to nature, and experience an interactive hobbit home. Visit the Gift Nook for a truly mystical shopping experience. 222 Main Street in Kewaskum, or call 414-839-0066. That's 414-839-0066, or find them on Facebook and Instagram.
With one call, the Civic Media Network of stations can deliver your business's message to the entire state of Wisconsin or your hometown. Marketing plans that work for your business. One call can do it all. Civic Media, 608-819-8255.
Weather brought to you by FreshFin, bringing you a fresh and healthy fast casual experience. Seafood, chicken, pork, or tofu. The bowl options at FreshFin are endless. Check them out at the corners of Brookfield, Bayshore Mall, East Side, and 3rd Ward, or online at freshfin.com.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with highs around 69. Winds out of the south, 8 to 15 miles an hour. Partly cloudy tonight. Slight chance for scattered rain showers. Lows dip down to about 49. Slight chance for scattered rain showers tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 70. Cloudy skies expected. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 64 degrees.
Bringing some sanity to the airwaves. The Shaw 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. We are talking about Star Wars Day. And may the 4th be with you, and talking about our connection and love, or sometimes apathy towards Star Wars, depending on who you are. But I love this. Fancy Brian shot us a text saying, because if you did not know, Brian of Luke and Brian on Dueling Tangents, also the handyman of everything that he does at this at the Civic Media Network. He is also an actor. And he said he worked with an Ewok. Kevin Edward Thompson, on whatever project they did, that actor was a leprechaun, and Big Brian was a genie.
And that's perfect, because Brian is a very tall human.
Very tall human. He's about 6'5", with the hands the size of a catcher's mitt.
Yes.
And so
And one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Absolutely. And so would love to, in the last couple minutes that we have of the show, if you want to sneak in any Star Wars stories or memories, or which, I guess it's not a film, TV show, which rendition you like the most. 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY.
Yes. We announced earlier this morning.
We did.
In the 11 o'clock hour, the big news that my co-host is expecting. Baby on the way.
Yes.
Big baby on board for October. So we'll do this daily.
Every day we want advice.
We have 60 weeks to go, right? No, I'm kidding. We have 20 weeks to go.
About 20 weeks to go, yeah.
But if you have tips on, because this is first time for
First
Kristen and
time.
Michael.
Yep.
So if you have tips for first time parents, or things you absolutely need to have, or things you certainly don't need at all, and it's a waste of money, we will happily take all of those at 844-967-2789. Texture from the 514 just says, congrats on your new co-host in training. Kristen, have fun. Start banking sleep now from the 262.
Is that possible?
No, you can't bank
You
sleep.
can't bank sleep.
You
Okay.
cannot bank sleep.
Dang.
Best insight someone gave me when I became a parent: understand that the days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like something to live by.
One of the funny, I remember, because I'm using, one of those apps as far as like tracking your pregnancy. It's like, this is what size the baby is. I think she's, let me see really quickly. Last week, I think she was an avocado.
Okay. So she's
a tomato now.
Oh, she's a tomato.
She's a tomato.
Okay.
Oh no, she's a pomegranate. Excuse me.
No, don't confuse me.
Well, I was just in this. The picture was small, and now that I've gotten it bigger, it's the equivalent to the size of a pomegranate.
And it's a girl.
And but one of these in the last couple of weeks, that said your baby is developing hearing this week or something like that. I was like, well, you should start talking to her. I was like, well, it's good that I talk for a living.
By the time she comes out, she's going to be like, God, would you
Shut up.
Just let me have some
Jeez.
quiet.
Well, that's what was really interesting when we were in California. I was seeing but one of the reasons we went was a girlfriend that I went to college with, her baby shower, and her husband does a lot of research on everything that they do. He's a big research guy.
Okay.
And I forgot which book he was recommending to us that was all about like the 4th trimester being the 3 months after the baby comes, and how the misconception that babies need it to be quiet
in order to sleep.
But it's not true, because the thing is, if you think about how loud, like traveling around in your mom, how loud it is, how much like internal organ stuff, like what they're constantly hearing, like the ambient noise, and also like they're constantly in motion every time you're getting up and walking around and stuff like that. And so a lot of kind of the misconceptions, according to him, according to the book that he read, is it doesn't always have to be quiet. And so like white noise machines and like the rockers and stuff like that, like, and like even how they like to be held is like, there's just been, new information on more stuff like that. But like, that does make a lot of sense to me of like how loud it must be in there.
Don't you think it's muffled by all the amniotic fluid though?
I have no idea.
That's just how that's how I would imagine that it sounds.
Well,
I
it
don't
does
know.
when you get an ultrasound. Now that I know, like in the times they're like getting in there looking for a heartbeat and looking at stuff, it is pretty loud. I mean, if that's what they're
hearing.
Yeah, I mean, if what you're hearing on the ultrasound is kind of what's happening inside of you, it's not loud. It's not quiet. It's like there's stuff happening.
Sure.
And so, but yeah, I'm sure there's lots of stuff to start learning on the way. The thing that I am hesitant on is any like mommy forums.
Not doing that?
I don't know.
I've heard they can be brutal.
Brutal. Like the reputation of some of these mommy forums on different topics, and like you post a question and then like the fights and debates that happen in the comment section. I was like, I want nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I've talked to people as well who've been on some of them, and the judgment. What do you mean you're not saving your placenta to turn it into a pie? How are you crazy?
Or like there's like, and then I guess now on a lot of them there's rules as far as you can't even like post pictures of car seats because people have so many opinions on car seats.
Oh my.
Or like just all these different things that can lead into like a total meltdown of everyone has an opinion on how it's supposed to work. Whereas like the best advice I've gotten so far is like, do whatever, like just, if it works,
do it.
Because it's hard. And so just getting them to like eat. Like as long as they ate, it's good. Like it doesn't always have to be organic.
And every child is different.
Yeah.
I've talked to people who have more than one, and it's, the first one was a piece of cake and everything was great. And the second one came and they were colicky and this and never slept and So it's all a journey, Kristen.
It's all a journey.
It's all a journey.
And Jane, you'll be here to hear me talk about it all the time.
And I'm here for the baby sway, baby. I am great with babies.
Baby babies.
I love baby
It's
babies.
only once they start talking back that you're like, meh.
How dare you develop your own personality and challenge me? Are you kidding?
All right. Well, I was so happy to be able to share the news with all of you today. I'm excited to be able to talk about all of this freely, and it opens up a whole new world of topics that I'm excited to talk about and get your input on. And certainly to have Dr. Kristen Lyerly back on Thursdays, talk about medical stuff and health stuff. So today was a super fun show. I'm sure we'll be back tomorrow with, more news as far as some of the heavier stuff. But we will have State Senator Kelly Royce is coming back at noon to talk about the budget. So thank you for calling. Thank you for texting. Thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow. This has been As Goes Wisconsin.
You were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting